So, oftentimes when we do research and we're sharing what effective leaders do, sometimes people are surprised by the behaviors that the research suggests need to be toned down in order to mimic some of the effectiveness patterns we see in the leaders we're studying. And so, when we look at the transition from middle to senior executive, sometimes people are surprised at the behaviors that the research suggests need to be emphasized a little bit less. So, first, let me address that generally. So, when we say behaviors need to be increased or decreased based on our research, again, what you want to think about is the volume knob, right? Up a little bit more in emphasizing a behavior, down a little bit more in de emphasizing a behavior. It doesn't mean that when we say a behavior is emphasized, it should be in play all the time. And it certainly doesn't mean when we say to reduce a behavior that it is not in play. So it's important to remember what we're talking about is subtle shifts of increase or decrease in order to mimic the patterns we see in effectiveness when we look at the research. So, two behaviors that people have questions about when we look at the transition from middle to senior are cooperation and communication. So, cooperation, as measured in the LEA MRG's leadership assessment, is really talking about accommodating to the needs of others, being helpful, giving up some of what you are pursuing in order to support somebody else in pursuing their goals and objectives. The challenge when you get to senior leadership is you are not often able to forego your own objectives. And so the more challenging work at that level is to find ways to achieve your goals as well as help others achieve theirs. So there can be less accommodating, more using innovative to find new ways to get both things accomplished. And therefore, at a senior level, we see this accommodation happening less frequently and more the pursuit of this and how do we get the needs I have and the needs you have met simultaneously. Right. So it's not no cooperation, it's just less in play than it was when they were at a middle management level. Communication is another behavior that people have questions about. Communication, as measured in the LEA, is being very clear and specific around stating what your expectations are for others. Again, still in play when you're at the senior level, but what happens a little bit more in the senior level is more persuasion, more winning hearts and minds, more changing mindsets by creating a compelling story, a compelling case for why we're going to try to reach this challenging goal or why we're changing direction. So clear communication is still in play. It's just balanced more with persuasion. So a little bit less reliance on just explaining the facts and the expectations, and a little bit more emphasis on being compelling and being persuasive.